Woo. Okay.
Is always the thing. We're live, apparently. Hello, welcome to another Molten Chat. Please let us know before we launch into the wonderful things we have to say. Please let us know that you can hear myself in the chat and also that you can hear Eden. I always turn the wrong way. Say hello.
Hello.
God, thank you, thank you. So just let us know in the chat that you can hear us before we say anything important, and then we'll get straight on. So we're just going to go. So this is chat number 3, I think it is. We can hear you both. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gold Star, to you, sir, madam. That's great. Okay, in that case, we'll kick it off. So welcome. I'm Robin Vincent, and welcome to Molten Chat. I have with me today Chelsea Bruno, also known as Eden Grey, who's a modular musician. He's the founder of CVFreqs event, musical modular electronic music events, and general modular nut. It's so good to have you here. You're out in Miami, I believe, at the moment. How the devil
Yep.
are you?
Pretty good. Just hanging in there. It's been a long month, more than a month now, of kind of this lack of traffic, and everybody's in a really weird mood from this thing that's going on. And I'm super sad about Superbooth, but
Yeah.
you know, that sadness kind of wore off as well, I knew I wasn't going about a week before it was canceled. I was like, there's no way I'm going because I'm not going to Superbooth with the way flights are now. And I
Mm,
don't want to be at Superbooth with everybody wearing masks and there will be way less people. So I was like, no, I'm not going. Then they canceled it. So I was like, oh,
yeah.
very
Yeah,
sad.
they hung on to it for longer than most, I have to say. I mean, yeah, all of us were talking, saying there's no way this thing is going to go on, but they hung on to it for a long time before deciding to let it go. But I mean, it must be an enormous thing. They spend all year preparing for this thing. They must have had so much stuff ready, so much work put in. You can imagine it's heartbreaking to have to cancel such an event, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big thing. I mean, just watching things crumble for the whole month of March, it was really,
Yeah.
really sad. And now it just seems like people have gotten comfortable with the wearing of the mask. I don't like it. Uh,
No.
I made I made so many on the sewing machine for my mom to donate to health workers and her friends or whatever. So, but I don't like wearing it, and I don't want to have make it a normal part of my life. So I'm not going to. Once this thing is out of the way, I want it to be back to normal, but it
Yeah.
probably won't be.
I mean, I think you have to adopt a kind of a steampunk attitude to it, where it's going to be part of our post-COVID uniform. Long trench coats, mask. That kind of post-apocalyptic kind of feel to it. But we haven't been
Yeah.
forced down the mask route yet in the UK. It's still very much nobody really can quite get a handle on whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. But we have to let them decide those sorts of things.
Yeah, I
So
think, well, it should wear off maybe by the end of the year. That's what I'm hoping.
yeah,
But
we'll be back to it next year, most certainly. So, how many times have you been to Superbooth? When was your first?
I've been every year since the beginning in 2016, for all 3 days every year.
Wow. And is that
Yeah.
just as a punter, or do you perform, or do you work it in some way or other?
The first year I got a research scholarship from my university. Some of you might know, I mean, some people know, well, I've told people before, I'm doing my PhD. I'm almost finished with it, but it's all about Eurorec research and performance, modular synths,
Awesome.
and yeah, composition. But the other 2 years I did perform in 2017 and 2018, and then last year 2019 I helped DPW design Dan Welbeck, assisted him showing his modules here and there when he needed a break. But he's very loves to be on there all the time showing people, so I just whenever he needed me I was trying to help him. Yeah.
Yeah, people do get a bit passionate about their stuff. It's something which you very much feel the vibe of. I think in Superbooth, in that because all the manufacturers they're the people who made it. You know, they've sweated over these things. It's not as if it's the sales rep for a large company, although of course you get those too, and that's fine. That's a whole other vibe. But the nice thing about Modular is how boutique it is. Even the larger firms like, you know, Make Noise and Erica and Pittsburgh, they're still only a bunch of, you know, 6 people, 5-6 people who are all there talking about their stuff, and you're talking to the actual person. You know, I mean, you mentioned before we came on, you were talking about Richard at Pittsburgh, and I spoke to him at length at Superbooth last year about some of the modules, which of course he doesn't remember, but I don't expect him to remember. But it was great to then chat to him online, you know, in a bit of a video, having spoken to him directly face to face at Superbooth. It's great. You can't beat that kind of connection with people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's fun to see everybody and kind of see what they're doing with their stuff, because they're not selling it. They're not really interested in selling it there because you can't sell it there, but they want you to understand it.
Yes.
So really, yeah, because his Dan's modules are a little bit tricky. Well, not tricky, but hard to understand because they're so complicated.
Yeah, I'm not familiar actually. Who did you say it was again?
Dan Warbeck, DPW Design in Stockholm. So he's a very interesting engineer, really funny guy. Looks kind of like Gru from Despicable Me. So yeah, nice. He's hilarious. Yeah, and he's got an interesting taste in music too, kind of like a rocker vibe, but it's, you know, very experimental too. So he's really into like distortion. His first thing was a distortion pedal before he started making modules, and I met him at the Simru Beats at you know, Simon Jones's meet back in 2016. Yeah, not Simru, but Cymru, I guess that's how you say it.
Cymru Beats, yeah, I think so.
I like to say things incorrectly.
No, me too. Me too, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the wonderful things about having such an international vibe with Modular, that you have no clue how to pronounce anything. You know, don't get me started on noise engineering or Instruo. It all gets, it all does my head in. Mog.
Oh yeah, I can't say Instruo stuff.
Yeah, Mog. That's the stuff he does.
Yeah. And it's pronounced Merg, actually.
See, exactly, Merg. See, I had breakfast with him at Synthfest. So yeah, no, I've met the guy. He's yeah, he was really nice. So I'd just forgotten all about all of that. But yeah, no, yes, I remember that greatly. Yeah, oh, awesome, that's fantastic.
So last year was great. I love being involved in any way I can there at Superbooth. Even if, I mean, I wanted to perform, of course. Even Schneider himself was like, "Are you performing?" He's like, "No," but you know, maybe next year. They'll have me again. I wish I could be like grandmothered in, you know, as a resident artist at Superbooth. But, you know,
oh, it's about time.
They have a new.
Yeah, so it's about time they started doing that sort of thing, having a roster of you know, guaranteed artists who are going to be on show.
Well, did you see the new creative director? Her name is Marine. And she seems to be really into like techno modular stuff. So she booked Serge in for this year, and I'm not sure who else, but like that Lady Starlight figure. So these are like more popular kind of techno modular stuff. Yeah.
I suppose, I mean, there's a slight inevitability as Eurorack becomes more, well, not mainstream exactly, but broader in its reach, that it's going to be looking for popular tunes, isn't it? It's going to be looking for the crowd pleasers, and in order to get more people, I guess it's going to be techno that's going to bring that together. You would have thought, but I don't know. There's plenty of us. There's plenty of us who can sit around listening to weird noises all night. You know, that's no problem.
Yeah, I like the techno too. I'm aiming to get to try and do something like that. Now I've got my Bifaco kick call module. So there's my first module that's intended to be a drum module. Cool. Yeah.
Well, look, I've got a clip of you. Well, not a clip. I've got like 40 minutes, but let's just show a clip of you from Superbooth 2018. Now, I've never done this before, people out there, as in to drop a video into a live stream. I have no idea whether it's going to work, but I'm going to give it a go, and we'll look at it for a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back and assume that it worked. All right, so I'll be looking in the chat to see whether this actually pulls us off. So back in a second. That's 242. Okay, how about that? Did that work? That seemed to work. That was fantastic. Now you can watch the whole 30 minutes or so of that on YouTube. Just go search for Eden Grey and Superbooth and you will find it. Fantastic. Oh, let me get the chat back. Oh, come on. You can work computers. There we go. Yeah, awesome. It seemed to work. Dan is also in the chat. Hi. See, sorry, I couldn't remember anything about you, and then I could. So that makes everything better, I think.
Yeah. Great. I can't wait to see the demo for Superbooth Home Edition with Heinbach. That should be really interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, so, he's going to show on there. So.
Oh right, nice. Is that a whole day of streaming? I think on their channel, isn't that right? Is my understanding?
I don't know, but I'll be watching it. I'll figure it out. I guess it's tomorrow or Friday or Saturday, but. Yeah,
all three. I think it could be the whole lot.
I would have arrived in Berlin by now, and right now I probably would be having dinner or, probably something like that. Maybe drinks at the bar.
Yeah. Is there a crowd that you'd normally meet up with? Talking of drinks, it's time to open my beer, I think.
Well, my friend Jeremy, the one with the giant system, you probably saw him at Synthfest too. Jeremy went 1 year, and he's really fun to hang out with. He's hilarious, always nerding over stuff, and he's got really interesting taste in kind of electroacoustic music.
Oh,
yeah. So not just electroacoustic, but anything experimentalist, avant-garde. So, and then Dan, of course. I've got a friend who teaches at DBS. I like to meet up with when I go to Berlin. Cocktail Party Effect is his music name, but is Charlie. He teaches at DBS. Yeah. So I gave 2 guest lectures at DBS there with him in Berlin on other occasions.
Nice.
Yeah, I love visiting Berlin. It's just the best city in the world. I wish I could move there too.
I've only seen the Fez place. That's as close as I've got. Because unfortunately I can't because my wife's a teacher. She can't take time off to look after the kids if I want to go on a jolly, So So I've only ever been for the day. I fly in on the Saturday, fly back out again, and like some crazy crazy event, getting up at 3 a.m. to drive to the airport, that kind of thing, which it's all fine, but I've never been there long enough to do anything but just go to the venue and then go back again. So I would love to see more of Berlin. Love to.
You have to do this. Well, Superbooth time is not the time to see Berlin, because I don't even get to do my favorite things in Berlin when I'm there for Superbooth. You pretty much just go to Superbooth all 3 days, and then everything else that's cool you have to go another time, like, you know, the ice cream and the restaurants in Neukölln and stuff like that. Yeah, that's really fun to do, but during Superbooth you just don't have time. And I really recommend, for you especially, you got to find a way and start going all 3 days.
Yes, I have to. Well, probably somebody will need to pay me. That would be the answer, you see, because it's amazing what you can do when someone actually, when you're able to call it a job, you can get away with all sorts of things, I find. But when it's just for fun, then, you know, it has to be a little bit more contained. Definitely, we'll see. So what are your highlights from Superbooth over the years? Do you any particular events or stories or happenings that stick in the memory?
Yes, when the Bufacco kick-all was new, and it was about an hour before 7 o'clock, so it was 6 o'clock. You know, everything wraps up at 7. Yeah. So 6 p.m. on the Saturday, and things just get progressively louder over the 3 days. And so by 6 o'clock, your brains are just like splattered on the wall, and everybody's like, "Wow!" But so Bufacco and Endorphins, they sync their timing of their stuff so that and they have this hallway section. So what they're doing is actually really musical, and it's really heavy. It sounds great. So that's when I got really obsessed with the kick-all, because Diego from Bufacco was playing some really, I don't know, amazing techno back there. And that's one story I really like. That's my favorite one. But I also love the guy Biggie Vera from Gus Gus was doing a set that same year. I think 2018 was a really, really good year. So that was a really good one, and that was also on the Saturday. And then there was also that giant tank on the Saturday that rode in with these, like, I don't know, like crazy looking people riding on this tank that was like a sound system, and that was funny. And then what's the other thing that happened that time? So the Gus Gus guy, the Bufacco guy. Slipped my mind. There's one more thing I really liked that year. Gotta remember it.
Yeah. I just remember them as a bit of a whirlwind. Also because I think the first time I went, I think I've only been 2 or 3 times. I can't quite remember. I think I managed to miss a year. So I think I did like 17 and 19, maybe. So
I remembered what it is. I remember.
Oh yeah, go for it.
The reason I forgot is because it happened 2 years in a row. It was Ken Macbeth playing, and he played on I think it was a Saturday too in 2018, and then last year he played on the Friday. But he did the exact same thing. Like he did this thing where he leapt into the water, and everybody's like, "Oh my goodness, look at him, so drunk and he's acting crazy." But he did it twice in a row. So it's like, was he really drunk, or he's just being very dramatic and staging drunkenness?
Yeah, definitely. He must be a bit of a showman then, I think.
He's the showman, because I watched the video back and you could see him crawling towards the camera. Like, it's very good.
Well, we need a bit of rock and roll, I think, in modular and synthesis sometimes, because it does get. I mean, I don't know about you, but when you're performing with modular, I do tend to start focusing in. You know, you get pulled into your stuff, and it's not. It sometimes is not very interesting to watch, perhaps. You know, and maybe we need to have dancers around us dancing exploratively or something. But I mean, I guess a lot of performers use video to make up for the lack of dynamicism on the stage, because there's only so much you can do with a small thing. I mean, I found I mean, I've only done little bits of performing at an open mic night, but you're suddenly there and you're standing up rather than sitting down, because you're in a strange place. You've only got a table and the table's too low and you're standing up, so you can't really see. The lights are different. You can't see any of the labels on your knobs. You can't see where anything goes. Suddenly your fingers feel huge. You've had 2 beers, so you're all a bit dodgery anyway. So the whole trying to move from this sounded really great at home to actually performing is quite a struggle. And then try to be engaging and interesting while you're up there. I mean, that's far, far down the list from actually being able to see what I'm doing in the first place. I mean, how do you cope with the live performance vibe?
Oh, well, I never get stressed about it. Well, I try not to get stressed. Of course, you get a little bit nervous, but the best thing I do, and it's a personal preference when playing this thing. That's why I like it. I like to start from scratch. It's a blank canvas all the time when I go to perform live. And yeah, I'll never come with it pre-patched. I patch it right there before I start. So that way I'll have some kind of surprise. Or yeah, patching from memory, practicing a lot. But the lighting is hard. Sometimes it can be, but doing it from scratch and then the surprises in the moment, because the system, it has a life of its own, and it's inside the electronics. So, that's basically, yeah.
So you're teasing the life out of your machine, I suppose. You're teasing, you're persuading an animal almost to evolve. I don't get too weird with it. But I remember, I mean, what struck me when I very first met you at Synthfest a few years ago, I was on my own very, very beginning of a Eurorack journey, and I was wandering around going, I have no idea what any of this stuff is. It's like, oh, look, there's a no coast. I can work that. I can work a little synth. I understand a little synth, so I play with that for a bit. Then there's Eurorack and there's Eurorack going, I don't even know how to start. It felt rude to lean in, because you have to lean in because it's all so small. And then you're going, I have no clue what any of this is going to do. Then you wander off. Anyway, so I came across you, and you just had a single row of stuff, and it was making a weird noise. And I said hello, and you engaged you in conversation, sort of essentially saying, so what the heck is this? And you stood there and chatted to me for 10 minutes, and you were just talking about it, and I was asking silly questions, I imagine, and you just kept on talking. But the whole time you were just patching and unpatching. You were putting things out, putting things in, almost absent-mindedly. And as we stood there talking, the sound evolved and changed, and these different noises came out, and I was just standing there thinking, I've never heard anything like this. I've never seen a synthesizer used in this way. You play jump, and you play chords, and you play Vangelis, but to have these beeps and these noises and these evolutions just emerge, it was just intoxicating. I was totally blown away, and I think that was for me the moment that really hooked me, because it took it from being this thing that was far away and full of bleeps and bloops into something which was close, didn't have to be huge, and just made music through this patching of stuff that I had no idea how to understand. It was amazing. It was just an extraordinary moment, I think.
Yeah, that's why I love these events too, like any synthesizer events like Synthfest, Superbooth, and my events too. That's why I do them, because when you're playing them all day long, when you're playing your synth all day and you're changing it, and then other people are changing it too, and you're all putting an idea there. So I've done demos with my system at my event, and it sounds so amazing, but it will never sound like that at home when I do it. But it's because I'm talking about it. It's because of the way I'm explaining it, the energy in the room, the sound system that it's coming through, that all affects how it sounds. And it's just like, but playing it at home is great too. And then it's all different. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's completely fascinating. I must have a go at that patch from scratch business. I mean, it's one of those things that sometimes you see people make a bit of a fuss about, and I've never quite understood that. So I regularly pull everything out and start again. It just seems normal to me. I have no qualms about having to keep a patch or save something or take photos of it. You know, it is what it is, and then it comes apart and it becomes something else. But sometimes
they do.
Yeah. But I've seen sort of videos of people going, patch from scratch. This is amazing. Look, Colin Bender's put together, in 5 minutes, created a whole piece of music. It's like, I do that every day, 3 times a day. On Modular, that's kind of nothing. That's how you work the machine. It's not a demonstration of prowess with a machine. It's just how it works. You plug stuff in and you see where it takes you. That's the beauty of it,
Yeah, and you could go so far as to make notes as to where your knob settings are, but I've seen the people at the events, bring it pre-patched, and they say, please don't touch, or they put a little sign, don't touch please, because they're performing later and they don't want. So I think this is more of an approach that's kind of like a classical musician, or, someone who doesn't want to challenge themselves with improvisation. Not that it's not challenging, it's just a way of thinking. It's kind of like, it's more of, your just approach, just being more freeform with things. If you want a really structured sound and you really, really want that sound that you're after, then you need to have it that way, and you can't have anybody touching it after you've done it. But I'm not like that.
Yeah, because I'm not there yet either. Not in public, at least. No, when I've gone to open mic nights, I've taken it patched and I've been working on it all day to get it to at least have like a verse and a chorus. To have 2 things happen. This happens, and I've got something to go to. But on the night, it all goes out the window because, as I say, I can't see and I'm a bit drunk, and it just has to start happening, and I'm pressing buttons and nothing's happening. And as long as I can find a cut off somewhere and I can play with that for a bit, I'm usually a happy man. But to intentionally turn up without it patched, I think that's awesome. I'm going to have to work towards doing that. Good Lord.
It's really fun. It's more of a free form. It's more exciting in a way. Not that, it's not just like, oh, I'm at home, I don't practice my set. It's like, no, your practice is all the time as you're practicing with your set of modules. So, like maybe to make something new happen in the set, you just change a few modules, and then you have a whole new selection of sounds to use, because then everything works together differently.
Do you find that it changes the way you play if you rearrange your modules?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The organization. So like if I put my peg, which has been on the bottom left now for probably a really long time, I don't move it because it's always my timing device. So it times the whole thing for me. That's just what I've been doing pretty much since I started. So like that's my main clock. And then if I were to move it somewhere else, I don't know. I know it would affect something, but I don't know what it would be right now. So I had to try that for next time.
Yeah, I definitely find that moving things around, rearranging stuff has a huge effect. I'm trying to, it's forever changing. I'm never quite happy with either what I've got or what the setup is or the selection of modules. It is a continually moving target. I'm trying at the moment to put together a smaller system that I can just take to a gig and use, because I went from taking a row to taking 2 rows to taking 3 rows, and it's just ridiculous, and you end up with this huge sack of stuff, and
it's heavy.
It's heavy, yeah, and I don't think there's anything more going on particularly than when I took the single thing. One of the things that inspired me with modular making, I've said this before, if people get so I'm sorry if I'm boring people in the chat by saying again, but one of the things that inspired me was one of the Modular on the Roof videos, and I must look it up because I keep describing it badly, but it was just some guy on a roof in America somewhere with the sun going down, and he had this small lunchbox, and it just had one quite large synth voice in it, and it had a single 8-note sequence going through it, and he played it for half an hour, and it was extraordinary. You know, it took you to different places, and it was just a slowly changing sound. And you know, there I am with 30 modules trying to do something interesting. It's like, no, you just gotta, you know, you can do it in a smaller form, and perhaps that would, you know, because it's all about the restrictions. You know, the whole reason I came out of the computer was because I was bored of the limitless possibilities. I don't want limitless possibilities. I want a few possibilities that I can, you know, properly take hold of. So, you know.
That makes sense, yeah. Less is more. Simplicity is really, really good for this, yeah. Not really less is more, but you don't want to have, like, I don't know, a giant wall of stuff, because then it's really hard to, if you have one on this side that you want to patch with one on that side, you need a really long cable, and it's like, it's not possible. So, yeah, so, you know, something manageable, yeah.
Although on the other hand, I did see Stroma play live, and they have 2 huge modular systems and make an extraordinary sound.
Oh yeah, first time I saw them. Yeah, I saw them perform at Superbooth 2017. I saw them play at the after party at Trezor, and then I love it so much. I went up to Toby and asked him to play my event. Sure enough, I had them come over to London for my. I think it was my first event at House of Vans. I had Strum come, and I love them too.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah, they do such beautiful melodic things together. Yeah, you can really hear they have such a strong musical background.
Yeah, and it was actually interesting to watch. That was the other thing, because they move. I mean, you're mostly watching their asses, of course, but you know, whatever. But they move and they're involved in the music, and it's all they're really physically going about. I mean, I guess because, well, no, it is Eurorack, but because they have quite wide cases, they are
tall
having to,
too.
Yeah, they're having to move about and properly interact with it. You know,
they're good buddies of Dopefer too, so I know Dopefer loves them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, very much into his polyphonic modules, I think, at the moment.
I was dancing with Dopefer to them playing at Seabase one year too.
He's a nice bloke.
Yeah. Wow, he's really cool. He's you're just kind of like, oh my goodness, you're Dopefer. He's like, oh yeah, who cares? That's how he is. But I'm sure he gets approached like that all the time now. Like he's some kind of amazing movie star.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I spoke to him at Superbooth last year. I met him at this Thomann Synth Reactor event I was at the Thomann Music Store, and I did a lovely interview with him and things like that. It was great, fantastic. So I saw him at Superbooth the following year and said, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, expecting to have a bit of a chat. And he was like, "Yeah, no, great. Now I've got these modules," and he was straight into business. You know, let me show you my modules, because that's where his passion is. He doesn't want to stand there and be a star or be thanked or fawned over. He just wants to talk about modules and talks about the music and that kind of thing. But yeah, great bloke. Really,
and I was amazed at the very first edition of Superbooth when I saw he had presented some modules with colored faceplates and like with some tie-dye decorations on them. I was oh yeah, he's getting into the exciting faceplate game. But instead of that very clinical silver gray that he has on everything, yeah.
I mean, he could get his website done. There's always room for improvement on that kind of things.
Yeah.
So, what modules are lighting your way at the moment?
Well, let's see. So, I have more at home that I'm thinking about. Like this is the main one that I always use. Then I'm thinking about my other systems. Okay, so I've just got my Raven, which is really cool. The Raven is the Bird Kids kind of really big standalone module, but it has the different components in it. So it has the VCA, the VCF, and 2 oscillators. And those 2 oscillators really remind me of, well, when I saw the prototype at Dutch Modular Fest, they presented it in 1/4-inch format in like a box. And so I was like, oh, this is really interesting. It reminded me so much of my Sub Fatty when I was playing it there. But now that I have the module at home, I'm finding it really different to tune than the two oscillators on the Sub-Fatty. It's a little bit tricky, but it's really interesting and it's really really clean. I don't know, it's analog, so I really love it. I love the Raven. Yeah, I'm so glad I finally have it because I backed the Kickstarter October 2018, and then I just finally got it like 2 months ago. So, but it's worth it. So it's a super deal. Yeah.
Are you the sort of person who buys on a whim, or does it take a lot of time and thought and research before you buy another module?
No, a lot of research. Yeah, I read a lot about when I want to get something, or think a lot about what is something that I really think would fit. So, I remember when I got the Propagate, and it's a very, very strange module, the SSF Propagate. And it was hard. It's a gate delay, so it wasn't doing what I thought it would do because
Right.
I wasn't. Yeah, so, but I like having it because it's like steady state fade is so analog, and I don't know if you might have seen his booth at Superbooth. He's always doing such really cool things with all of his modules. So, yeah, I'm really glad I got that one. Even though I read a lot about it, I was like, okay, this is the one I want to get. And then I was like, whoa, it's not what I expected, but it's still great in another way. Like, yeah. Yeah,
So I suppose
it's hard to pick.
It is. I mean, the flip side to that is, have you been disappointed by anything in particular that you thought would be great?
Yes. So the SEM filter, I was really close to selling it, and then my friend Edmund. Hi, Edmund. Edmund is my collaborator. We played live together at the last event, and he's actually my protege. He asked me for a shout out. I'll just have a little side to. So Edmund, I showed him how to do stuff at first, and then he's gone completely insane, and he's built a giant system. He's only got a few of the modules that I have, and then he's went completely crazy getting other really cool stuff. He has good taste in modules, like he's got the Surge random source ones, which he makes really good stuff happen with, and he uses a lot of this Zayoc stuff, which I really like. So anyways, so we were talking about the module that I didn't like, which was the SEM filter. The reason I mentioned Edmund is because last summer when I said I was going to sell it because I needed to sell it to get a different one, and he's like, no, just keep it or bring it here and I'll buy it from you. And then I was like, okay, well, I was like, all right, fine, I won't sell it. And then it was really good that I didn't because, well, first let me tell you the reason I don't like it. So the thing about it, I thought it was going to be great because I was playing on my friend's system and it sounded really cool. But then when I got it, and when I pushed it too hard, it kind of like made this sharp cutout sound at 1 o'clock. I sent it back to the guy in California at Studio Electronics. I was like, and he sent it right back to me. He's like, yeah, this is just how it is. It's like, whoa. I don't like how it does that because it's not. I like it to be. It should never cut the sound off like that. But then, when I was showing my system to, let's see, Andres Goncalves from ADEC in my winter event in December at CVFreqs, and he's trying out all my filters, and he's saying, oh, I don't like this one. He said he doesn't like this one. He doesn't like that one because something about them being, I forget the exact thing he said, but it was really technical. And then he said the SEM one was a good one because it didn't do what the other two did. So he's very technical. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of very, very clever people, I think, in this world, in this community that we find ourselves in. What's the word I would say? I don't pride myself on my ignorance. No, not at all. That's not at all what I mean. I mean that I revel in my naivety, perhaps, As in, I'm happy for other people to have all of the knowledge and to know all this stuff, and I'm really happy to learn these things. But I'm very much of the opinion that I don't have to learn it all in order to use it and play with it and talk about it, you know. It's great to have expertise, but also it's great to be on a journey and see where that takes you. And the community has been kind enough to let me do that and to let me share my journey, you know, which is great. Someone in the chat has asked whether you would walk through your live rig. If that's what's sitting behind you? Would you give us a quick guided tour? Would that be possible?
Yes.
Just let me make the screen bigger for you. So there we go. So we've got all you on the screen now.
I have changed a few things about it that I haven't played live with, but only two, I think. Only two modules are different, which this Dutch Modular Fest is the Grains one, and this one is the Burst. So I just put those in because I moved out. I forget what was there in the place of it. But anyways, that's the only thing that's changed about it since my last live performance, which was in Hamburg in December, and that was awesome. It was really fun to play that. Okay, so here's my two mixers. 1, 2, and I've got one filter here, one here, and so there's two there, right? And I got my 3 oscillators here and 1 oscillator here. I got the Pam's new workout out here and the expander. The expander is really good to use at home, but I don't really use it live because, I mean, I think I will one day because I really like to use it with the electron drum machine, the rhythm. So maybe I'll use that in a future thing, but it's also about like carrying all the stuff like Robin said. It's too much to carry, so yeah. But it's really good for working at home to sync for studio work. But I always use the PAMs anyways, new workout, but not the expander. I mean live. So then this one I use a lot live. It has the 2 outputs, so it can control, you know, I'll send the volts per octave input of this one and this one, say, to the sequencer, and then they're both making a melody together, you know, and then so then I'll change the steps. It has the 4, 6, or 8 steps. I usually keep it really slow, so to start with. Like I said, this is my main clock, and I'll patch this one to my, I've got the Make Noise shared system case here.
Oh, right, yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the mount, and I'll plug this one in there to give the clock, have many more outputs. And then I'll send it to like this one, and I'll send it here, I'll send it to Pam, and this one too. So these two, everyone knows they're kind of similar. Shuffling clock multiplier and rotating clock divider. They just do a different time. So this one's faster. Then I've got these beautiful ones here, Magneto and Sid Guts Deluxe, which is really good for making chords. Like it has chords in it. It makes chords. Yeah, and they sound really very cinematic sometimes. I have something I'm working on. It's on my SoundCloud now. One of my new SoundClouds, so it's a really long thing I did with it. I just put it up there. It's like my secret SoundCloud. I call it Daisy and Chains, but it has a really long thing I did with this. And I was playing this for about 50 minutes, just 8-step sequence of the chords and then changing all the things, modulating it and stuff. I love the possibilities the Magneto gives in live performance, because for a long time I was, I usually do run I run it through Ableton Live, and I'll have a ping pong delay on there, which is my favorite delay, to kind of soften the modular sound. I don't know if anyone remembers my live set from Ross Lemon's Bells and Whistles event back in 2016? I think it was 2016. Yeah. So I played his event and I didn't use the computer. I didn't send it through Ableton. So it was very harsh and too noisy. And I don't think it was too well received. So that's why I always send it through the delay to just soften up things so that it's not like if you get a really high pitch, but at least you can, soften it quickly if you know where it's located. That's why when I put the magneto in 2018, I was so happy because it has the, right and left out. So input, output. Yeah, and then you can send it to two different oscillators to create a nice reverb on there. And, it has so many things it does. It's really amazing. So did I explain that good?
Yeah. That's helpful. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even talk about my VCAs. VCA is really important. Everyone knows that. I've got the two VCAs here, the Bastel Skis and the Doper Dual VCA, and then my noise source, the Steady State Fate 1, which will always create a nice snare or noise sweep. Okay.
Nice. Yeah, I've got my magnetos. Yeah, look. It's feeling really sad because it's not currently in a rack. It's one of those things. It's I hear what you say when you say it has a lot in it. I haven't yet given it the time to fully explore. I mean, I can get a delay out of it, I suppose, although that can be a struggle sometimes. But it has a depth to it that I just haven't been able to get to yet. So it's at the moment it's benched, but I do hope to get it back into my system at some point because it's a big chunk of cache and module, and I'm sure it's kind of one of those things where I knew that I wanted it as soon as I saw it. I thought that's going to be fantastic, and then it's kind of I don't really know how to use it, and then it just you just end up moving away from it because you'll just feel disappointed otherwise. But I'm going to hang on to that one.
It's a great module. The loop mode and the sample mode on there, it kind of can surprise you sometimes. So like if you're working in the sample mode and it records what you're doing, and then you're there patching it, you're playing it, and then it plays back to you something. It's like, whoa, what? How did it do that? And then it's like kind of magical. That's a really cool thing about it. And then the other thing that's cool about it, well, there's so many things, but how it's actual tape delay effect. So it gives you that really old kind of retro vibe of that actual tape speeding up and slowing down that they used in the radiophonic workshop. Yes. I'm often compared to, because of that module, for the tone science song, the song I did for the tone science compilation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what they said. I was kind of the more retro vibe because I'm using that one in there. Nice.
The most success I've had with it was I did a live performance with a vocalist friend, and all she was doing was going, "la" every now and again. And so I fed that into the magneto and would hit the loop button, and then she would sing over the top and gradually build up layers of harmony. And that was fantastic. But on my own, I can't really pull that off. So every time she's around, I pull that out and plug it in, and we can get some more lovely harmonies again. So but yeah, it's perfect for that.
You record her voice into you record her voice and process it through.
So she's singing live. I going through a Bafako instrument interface thing, so the microphone straight in, and she sings through. I hit loop, and that comes back eventually, and she sings on top of it. It's a remarkably easy way of building up those sorts of textures. I mean, she's got a friend of mine, Hannah. She's got a brilliant voice, and it's a real joy whenever she turns up to sing on one of my terrible schemes, as I've made her do for probably over a decade now, I think. Poor thing.
Nice.
But they're nice. Vocalists are nice to have around from time to time, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I really like when people will let me use some of their voice in a project. It doesn't happen. I kind of got to ask people a lot nowadays or find a vocalist. It's hard to find them, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to find those who are happy to be a bit more experimental, you know. That's the difficulty. And then what is it you're trying to say as well? That's what I mean. I like to use voice. I don't necessarily like to use, well, I would love to use words. I just don't have the words at the moment. But just to use the sound of a voice, I think works really well.
Yeah, or little tiny parts of it. I can't wait to, I really want to put my boyfriend Marcel's voice into the granular sample, the Bastel one I just got. Yeah, I wanna put his voice in there so that it's like because he's got a really thick accent, so it'll sound really funny if I can get something, I don't know, add a nice little Miami flavor or something.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be delighted. I'm sure that will make him very happy.
But he's shy. If I could ever get him to record, probably not. But yeah. That's him. I put his name on my new song on my Bandcamp, which if you asked me about that.
Yeah, let me throw that in. Oh, look, see, so you're like a song you just put. Well, you put it up previously, but you've released it today. As in, made it available today on Bandcamp. It's a track called "Battery Cake for Marcel."
It says I released it February 6th because I submitted it to the Miami Winter Music Conference competition thing, which they never even replied to my email. Miami scene is very, very flaky and not together. So like I've been trying to reach out to people on several occasions in Miami, and there's just nothing very cohesive in this music scene. It's very commercial and people get a lot of sun. So it's like, I think they're just sun drunk or something. I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, yeah. So I sent this track to the Winter Music Conference, and then I made it private again. I was like, well, maybe I'll find another label that wants to release it. I was talking to the guy from Detroit Underground because I saw Jessica Kurt just released with Detroit Underground, so I was like, oh, maybe I should try that too, because he's got a lot of like ladies on there. I saw on International Women's Day, and he's posting, this woman does techno, this woman does techno. Yeah, but it's like really techno, and I don't know if my stuff is techno-y enough for Detroit Underground. So, but I was working on this song for like 4 months, from October, November, all the way till February. I was like, okay, this is silly. I wanted my friend to master it for me. I was like working with this really cool thing that I got the Magneto to do. My friend Bill Petaway showed me here. He's like this other modular crazed person that lives here in Miami. And he showed me this little trick with the Magneto. I was like, oh, this sounds amazing. Oh, this is a really good track. Ugh. So yeah, that's the main sound on there.
So how do you move from a live performance to a recording? Is it the same process, or how do you do that?
Well, it's kind of like performing at home or like testing out different things, different patching, and then finding something really cool and then recording it, or making a note, or recording the whole thing, and then when you find something cool, then hit stop, and then start recording again. And then you're like, that's the good part that I want to sample, or, like kind of manipulate and change for an actual track. So I started something.
Yeah. Do you record in multiple tracks, or are you recording a stereo out? How are you doing that?
No, I always record. Let's see. On live on one channel. Just one. But it's always, I don't know. That makes it mono? Yeah.
So you're just recording straight out of your rig, straight into Cubase, Logic, or something like that? Ableton, right.
Yeah. And then just a lot of, like, so if, right now, for example, I have something that I found, like a 14-minute thing I had recorded last summer or something, and I was like, oh, this sounds really good, the beginning of it. And so then I'll use the beginning. I just started working with it yesterday. It's like, just having a lot of things to work with.
Yeah.
It's endless material.
Well, that's it. I mean, yeah, it could be putting stuff out all the time. I think I was talking to DivKid about this, that because when I try to make a track, I try to do it multi-track and then try to mix it and then try to stuff, and it's like, no, that's pulling me back into the box again, and I don't actually want to do that. So now when I record, I mostly just record in stereo straight into my video software or my DAW, and that's it, which makes me think I should be releasing stuff all the time, but I'm not, because I don't know, I don't think it's quite there yet. But that's the way that I want to do it. I don't want to be fussing around in a DAW, mixing and adding plugins and all that kind of rigmarole, because it just sucks my time and creativity away.
Well, that's where I got you beat a little bit, but I did start Modular a couple years before you, or a few years before. So I'm just starting to, like, since the whole lockdown, whatever thing, Native Instruments gave me Complete as a gift last year for participating in their blocks competition at Superbooth.
Oh, awesome.
And I was like, oh, Complete is great. And I'm just like, I put my favorite things from Complete, which are Massive, FM8, Absinthe, I just put those last year, and I have all this other stuff there because the whole thing will take up your whole hard drive.
It will,
yeah. So then after the lockdown, I installed a few more, and I got some really good ones. So I'm starting to use them more with Modular. So like it adds a really good, I don't know, a juxtaposition of sounds, like your digital, really really beautiful digital synths that they have there, and then with this, it's crazy. You can make some crazy stuff comparing the sounds there. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, because I come from software very much into this area, and I certainly wouldn't tell anyone not to use anything. Use everything. Anything that you have, use it if that makes you happy. I've just the computer doesn't make me happy at the moment. It doesn't give me joy. But it does from time to time. I still do videos on software and audio interfaces and all that kind of stuff, because that's still a reality, whether you're hardware or software, really, I think.
I think we all came from software, and I just learned that about you when I watched your one with Richard, that you were on Richard's Modular Synthesis chat 3 weeks ago. And so I was like, well, that's kind of similar to me too, because I was doing Max MSP for my master's in music technology, and I was like, I didn't understand how to patch them that well, because the way that the ins are on the top of the little bubbles and the outs are on the bottom, it's like, oh, but it looks weird the way you patch it, and like the patch cables are all kind of computery looking. That if they show people how to do this first, then Max MSP would be a breeze, or if they so when I did the reactor blocks thing, I was like, okay, they basically, like, they said, okay, you have 5 minutes to figure out how to learn the software, and then you have to present it in front of all these people. And I was like, okay, sure. I didn't get a very good one, and the other guy that I was competing with had some experience with VCV rack.
Uh-huh.
I was like, yeah, so he did something really cool, and of course he won, but they still gave me Complete. It's good.
Yeah, that's not so bad.
Yeah, that's good.
So tell us about, as time is getting on, tell us about CVFreqs then. Tell us all about it. Where did it come from, what your involvement is, and what it's doing now.
Oh, this is a lot of stuff. Okay, so I started CVFreqs back in Portland when I was doing my FormS, an internship for my master's degree. It had to be a graduate internship. We had to find somewhere to do it, so I asked FormS. And then when I got there, I was like, Portland is such a cool place. I've done events in Miami, like, I was always doing events for art because I did my undergraduate degree in art. So I had like painting, sculpting, and all this. And so I would get painters together and we'd all find somewhere to hang our paintings. So anyways, when I did this one, it was like, okay, I found a really cool place. The guy said, okay, and then have your event here. And it was called the Analog Cafe. And he's like the guy who owns it is like in a punk band or something. So they usually had punk stuff there. But when I got all these people up in the second floor of the venue, was so cool. And there's this giant table full of people's modular systems, including Josh from Maleko. He played with the Paul Barker, the Ministry guy that everybody confuses with Paul Barker, the Densink guy. You know that story. So yeah, it was brilliant when I started CVFreqs. Then I was like, when I left Portland, I was only there for 6 weeks. I was like, so you guys are going to keep the event calling, you should going, you should continue to call it CVFreqs. But the guy who makes the brain seed antimatter, his name's Jeff. He changed the name of the event to Vault Divers. So then I was like, okay, so I kept my name. Then when I moved to London, about a year and a half later, I was like, okay, I want to do my event here. I got to figure out where I can do it. I got to figure out who I can get involved in all this. So I found Eclectic. I asked him if I could do it there. And then I got the meetup group, Modular Synthesis, London Modular Synthesis meetup group was passed to me from James Flipside. He has a sound system called Flipside, and he had started this group, and they had done a few meets, and so yeah, I just grew the meet from people who I met in London, and turns out there was a really good scene there, like Mark Parsons that did a London modular meet, which was really, really good, and Ross had done his one, which was like a really family one up in, was it Peterborough?
Yeah, Peterborough, that's right, yeah.
And so after I saw those, I was just like, oh, this is going to be great. And it was from the beginning, from the first CVFreqs, it was 2016. I did 12 all the way till 2019. And everybody was like, oh, is it finished? Are you ending it? Well, why would I end it? I just, take it wherever I am. So my plan was to do one here in Miami next month, but now it has to be canceled, of course. But I definitely want to go back to London and do it again, if that venue will have us again. House of Vans, that's where we had the best ones. I mean, they were the best because we had...
Was it in Wimbledon? Was that where it was? If I got that right?
Wimbledon Library. So my event is like a traveling thing, so I like to... In London, it was so hard for me to find somewhere to have it in the beginning, because... And that's the difference between Portland and London. Big, big difference. That Portland is really small and London is gigantic. So, yeah. But I was in London for a long time until I figured out, okay, so I went to the London Modular Alliance guys, and I was like really obsessed with their shop, at first. Yes. That they even had a shop there, because it's like, oh my God, they have a modular synth shop. But now, they're more common, but back then they weren't. So I met Abstract Data, Justin, at their shop.
Yeah.
Then he told me about the Red Dog Music pop-up shop, which was in central London in Denmark Street. And that was a really cool spot. And it was there where I met Matthew from ALM and Oz from Expert Seekers at the same time. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. And so then I kept in touch with Matthew, and he's been sponsoring my events the whole time. And, he's friends with Steve Thonk, and Thonk got involved with them too. And just having everybody together as a community and the support and participating, it was just it's really good. Like, it's a good community. And totally bringing people together. Yeah, and then you always get new people. You get people who are interested, and then you get people who are obsessed, like Jeremy. So yeah, it's really fun.
Great.
Yeah, it's a great event.
So I understand that you're moving into podcast territory. How's that coming along?
It's tricky right now. It's tricky. because everybody wants to make a podcast, and I was like, okay, how hard could it be? And then I'm like looking at how to make a podcast. It's like, whoa, there's a lot of stuff to do for it. So, but it's basically gonna be something like what we're doing now,
Hmm.
of course. But I just have to put my head around how I'm gonna do it. Uh, Now that I have to stay home, I'm not allowed to travel for a long time. And that's the only way I can really do stuff with CV Freaks for now.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, so I will do the CV Freaks podcast. I I told you I filmed my first episode last week, which is all like homage to Superbooth, showing stickers and stuff. I don't know, I might share it.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
might. I love my stickers. I have a big sticker box of all the modules like that I like that I pick up at Superbooth, and it's just the best. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Do that. I mean, people are always interested. You know, if people are interested in anything at all, it is worth putting it out there because you just never know. You never know how that moves and how that flows. And I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, to kind of see, because you pick up so many stickers there, there's so many to get. So it's like if I'm only showing you a few from my whole journey of the 3 days that I spent, you know, there's, I don't know, it's just the greatest experience Superbooth is.
Yeah.
It really is. So,
Excellent. Well, why don't we have I don't know if you've got YouTube chat open where you are, but let's have a quick look into the chat to see if anyone's got any burning questions that you could
sure.
answer. Let me have a quick scan. Um, as usual, they're just talking amongst themselves, really, which is
Okay.
always nice. Is it
I
possible
was watching. Hmm?
sorry, somebody asked if it's possible to hear your SoundCloud as background music. Well, you can at home, obviously. It would be more difficult for us to pipe it through the stream. That would just require too much thinking at the moment.
I got my Eden Grey SoundCloud is the one that I've filled up to capacity, so I'm putting up some new stuff. Daisy and Chains is the new SoundCloud. Uh, yeah, and I have the one synced jam from about 5 systems uh, from CVFreqs 11 on that SoundCloud too.
It's probably not Daisy Chain. Daisy and what did you
Daisy
call it?
in chains, like
Daisy in
Alice in
Chains.
chains, but Daisy in chains.
There's a book I think called Daisy in Chains, which is coming up on my SoundCloud search as Alice in Chains. Look at that. CV Freaks Closing
Oh,
Jam. That'll be you, won't it?
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, which is a
Okay.
pretty good jam, that one.
There you
And
go. I found the link to it. I'll stick that up.
yeah, I've got. I actually bought the thing that one of the members, Andy from the meetup group, brings this really cool. He was actually sharing my table at SynthFest 2016, and he brought this really cool. It's called the ERM multi-clock,
Okay.
and yeah, so he brought that with him, and we synced our stuff together because we're sharing a table, and we had an awesome jam all day. So I bought it from him at the past event, so I can continue to sync up everybody and have the live jam at some point during the event. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great area of problem is, I mean, in various synth meets I've been to in trying to sync together, you know, sometimes it's easier to just very much play individually, but having some kind of sync. Who was I speaking to? I spoke to Manu about this. Yeah, because I spoke to Manu on Monday from Bafaco, who was talking about the Spanish connection at Superbooth and how they all synced up and stuff, and that was really fantastic. And how Superbooth have tried to do that. They try to find a way of getting everyone somehow in tune or in sync, but it's a mammoth, huge kind of job to try to do that.
Well, to sync everybody at Superbooth would be nearly
Yeah,
impossible.
yeah, but because people just want to do their own thing, you know. But we had a comment from Detroit, Berlin, and they say that you can send them in your demo. They're a techno label, but with an open mind and a love for modular stuff. So there you go.
Oh, great. That's great. I'll do that for sure. I got some new stuff. I started a new track yesterday. I was really excited about. Um, and then I did something new on my YouTube. I took some footage of a couple slow dancing, and I put some weird music to that.
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
saw that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, just boredom, I guess. But I always wanted to kind of make more things to look at with the music, but I don't know how to do any visual stuff. But if you find some old footage, you could use that. So
Yeah. Well, something that I found recently that another Kickstarter, I'm a big fan of Kickstarter, was from Krishan Guittari. I think that's how you pronounce it. They've kickstarted this little box, which I think it's MIDI. I don't know. It just kicks out crazy video, and it sounds perfect. You plug in sound, and it sound reacts to whatever you do. So it's, to me, it's the sort of thing I can Velcro on the side of my Eurorack rig and attach to a projector and take that with me to a gig. Because I've toyed with the idea of video modules, because there's sort of a range of those sorts of things around where you can start pumping CV into modules which then output video in different ways, and that's interesting. And I like the way that you can, mesh that into the rhythms of your stuff. But they're expensive and complicated. So this seemed like an easy way. I could just root out a beat from something, and that can just keep that going and have something simple with a couple of knobs that you can mess about with. Sounded absolutely ideal. I mean, I've no idea what it'll look like in the end, but yeah, very much into that idea of grabbing something visual that you can interact with.
yeah, I really, really wish that I could get some more visuals going somehow. I just don't have anything as far as visuals ever. So that's always something, because there's such cool things you can do. Yeah, I want to do that. Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, just like a GoPro clamped to the side of your case, which then projects, just so people can have a better idea of what you're doing, because it's often very hard to see, I think. And sort of a top-down camera is kind of the sort of thing that we need, I think, as part of our arsenal of things. So you've got to assume that a venue is going to have a projector of some kind. So yeah, I imagine that's one way. That's a simple way of doing it. It's not particularly creative, but at least people have something to look at, I suppose.
Yeah, it's not the super fun kind of lights and smoke and mirrors and all that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's the thing is, that's a whole other area of artistry and creativity, isn't it? To become a video jockey or VJ or whatever, that's a whole other world. And in some ways, just trying to bolt it on to what you do is quite difficult, or even presumptuous that we could just master that straight away. But I mean, maybe you need to fall into collaboration with a video person. I think that's perhaps the other way to approach it. But then,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
there's no way you can't do everything. It's like everybody thinks, oh, you just got to do everything now that you can.
oh yes,
It's not possible. Unfortunately, we can't. We're not like, yeah, no, it's not. I mean, there's got to be a way to do something. But yeah, anyways,
yeah,
visuals.
cool. Well, I think perhaps as it's getting on, we should perhaps draw it to a close. Do you think? Do you think you've told us everything you feel you need to say, or do you have any more burning things you'd like to present to the world in these moments or at these times, or any thoughts about Superbooth, or
A lot.
yeah,
But I can't, I really just, I mean, I hope that everyone will kind of check out the CVFreqs podcast as it comes together, and the events, they're going to keep going, but as all events for now, just have to see what happens. As far as Superbooth, I really miss everybody a lot, and yeah, I mean, it seems like last year wasn't as many people as the previous years, but then there was more people, so a lot of new people, and then some people weren't there. So it's like, okay, we're forced to take this break right now, and it's going to be so explosive next year. It's going to be really good, and a lot of exciting things happening in this world in the modular synth world.
yes.
Yeah, so can't wait to see what they're going to be like. And I'll be watching all the Superbooth things over the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's cool because I think it also, like, I never met Heimbach. I never met him at Superbooth ever. I was there all the time. And
Yeah.
now it's like, so I'm getting Orbo beats. So now I'm like, okay, well, I'll see them next year. And now I know who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
There's always more people to meet, I think.
I think we got a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend or encourage you to live stream some gigs. Just play, just turn the camera on, see if you can get some decent sound into something. And I'm sure, I'd love to see you do more performance. Or I'd love to get to see you perform. Is the ultimate thing. So yeah, do that.
Since the quarantine, I've done one live performance. Well, quarantine
nice.
period.
Yeah.
I did one for Ned Rush's online micro festival, he's calling it, More Kicks Than Friends. So I did the first one. It's on his YouTube channel, and I'm at 2 hours 12 minutes.
Great.
But
we'll look that
the
up.
other stuff is good. Yeah, the other stuff is good too. And yeah, he's pretty good. Oh, that's what you said, Wimbledon. I had him play in Wimbledon, and he did the visuals then for CVFreqs too. So, and the way that CVFreqs works, like as an open format event, being like so open to have like anybody will write and say, I would like to play, and then it's always like, okay, yeah, come play. That kind of vibe, are really open to be ambient music, techno music, experimental, just a little bit of just kind of open to anything, because people are making all different types of things with this modular stuff. So yeah. Anyways, I'll go on forever if you want, but I'll just wrap it up.
Well, that's awesome. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I'm so pleased that you agreed to come on my little show. It's been great. You've been an inspiration to me in the start of my journey, and following along ever since, tuning into what you're doing and seeing what's going on. I've never got to a CVFreqs, but I've been, because I live out in the sticks, sadly, but I've been very keen to do so whenever the opportunity arises. So thank you so much. I love what you do, and I really appreciate you coming on.
I look at you as my protege too, actually.
Yeah.
Like
totally do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's really amazing to see how far you've come with it, and that's what I like. I really like to see people new get into it and not be scared of it. That's really important. Just don't be scared of it. And everybody's like, oh, I'm so scared of it. It's so expensive, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it is. So
yeah, it's really special, though.
Yeah, it is. Nothing quite like it. Great. Well, there we go. So coming up, I suppose I should say, is tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, yes, is Gertz from Erica Synths.
Gertz.
Gertz. Oh, I've got to pronounce that right, have I? That's the thing. I'll be calling him the wrong thing. That bloke from Erica Synths.
The crazy guy.
The crazy guy is going to be here. We're going to be talking about those new modules that I've done terrible demos of, which will be great, and whatever is that turns into, I don't know. And then at the weekend, now I've got confirmed Mark Doty, synth historian and kind of crazy guy.
Bookler, right?
He's Bookler at the moment, but he's been a bit of everything. So we're going to talk about polyphony, I think, on Sunday. And then, who knows what happens after that. But I've got probably another half a dozen lined up in the next couple of weeks, which is great. So stay tuned. And there's a lot of crazy stuff going over in the next couple of days. So you'll find lots of stuff out there under the hashtag Superbooth20. So have fun and join us tomorrow if you can. If not, we'll see you when we see you. So thanks again, Eden. And I will end the stream by pressing the big button. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you very much.